Hi, Peter. It's Mayor Brown. Just want to check my audio.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Yes, you're coming through loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Councillor Santos checking in.
Councillor Santos, we can hear you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Planning and Development Committee meeting. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are gathered here today on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the First Credit First Nation, and before them the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron, and Wendat. We also acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and the global Indigenous people that now call Brampton their home. We are honored to live, work, and enjoy this land. We will begin the meeting tonight with myself calling the roll call. Mayor Deputy Singh. Present. Councillor Santos. Councillor Santos.
I'm here, present.
Councillor Vincente.
Present.
Councillor Brar. Present. Councillor Keenan.
Councillor Plushy, Councillor Keenan is trying to connect. He's having some difficulty, so maybe someone from the clerk's office can reach out to him.
Okay, we'll come back to them. Councillor Medeiros.
Here.
Councillor Fortini.
Good evening, I'm here.
Councillor Fortini.
Yeah, good evening, I'm here.
Councillor Tour. Councillor Power.
Present.
Mayor Brown.
Yes, here.
And Councillor Keenan. We see that you're present, but we'll try and see if we can circle you in. Our next item is approval of the agenda. Do any members have any item that they would like to add, remove, delete from the agenda as it's written today? I have one additional item, item 9.1 on Bill 23. Any other members have anything to add? Anything on the... Seeing none. We have a motion moved by Councillor Singh to approve the agenda as amended, that the agenda for the Planning and Development Committee meeting of November 28, 2022 be approved. All in favor? That carries. Declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Seeing none, the clerk will note for the minutes. Committee, as part of the consent motion process, I will read each eligible agenda item subject to the consent motion, and any member may verbally identify the item to be held for debate during the meeting. Any item not held for debate will be considered as part of the consent motion and voted on for approval. I'll start by reading the relevant item agendas, and members can identify any items to be held for debate. Item 5.1, staff report, application to amend the zoning bylaw, Highway 50 and 7 South Equities, Pan Green Limited Partnership, Canadian Incorporated, Great Can 9 Properties Limited Partnership, Great Can 9 Properties Inc., Weston Consulting at 8386-8412 Highway 50, Ward 8.
Hold, please.
Held, Councillor Fortini. Item 5.2, staff report, application to amend the zoning bylaw and for a draft plan of subdivision, Gagnon Walker Dones, Mr. Haroon Raza, 1206 Steeles Avenue West, Ward 4. Item 7.1, staff report, application to amend the zoning bylaw, Mattamy Castlemore Limited, Corsiac Urban Planners, 10417 Airport Road, Ward 10. Item 7.2, staff report, application to amend the zoning bylaw for a temporary period of 3 years, SGL Planning and Design, Odessa Auctions Canada Corporation, 0 Queen Street East, Ward 8. 7.3, staff report to help assist proponents, electric convergent. That one's actually being held. We have a motion that's going to be amended. 8.1, minutes, age-friendly Brampton Advisory Committee. 11.1, correspondence, application to amend the zoning bylaw, Highway 50 and 7, Equities Pan Green Limited Partnership. 11.2, correspondence, application to amend the zoning bylaw, Mattamy Castlemore Corsiac Urban Planning, 10417 Airport Road, Ward 10.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. The one before that, it's the same one as I held?
It's the correspondence, Councillor.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to hold that one in case. Thank you.
You'd like to hold the correspondence?
Oh, correspondent has nothing. I'm sorry. I don't want to hold it. Sorry.
That's okay. I have a
That's
motion.
fine. Thank you.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Fortini to approve the consent agenda. As per our process agreed by council, the consent motion will be subject to recorded vote.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I just need to get some clarification. 7.2 you read off, there is a delegation for that item. And 5.2, it's a statutory public notice item, so there is a delegation from the applicant, I believe, on that item,
So 5.2 and 7.2 will be held.
as well as 5.1, because it's a statutory public notice item.
That was held.
Yep. 7.3, you're holding as chair. And 11.1 is being held as its correspondence related to the statutory public notice item.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the only things that are going into consent is 7.1,
3,
8.1,
and
11.2.
that's correct, Mr. Chair.
If you can call the vote.
All members in favor of the consent motion, please indicate. Councillor, because we have remote participation, I'm going to call out your names. Councillor Tour, in favor of consent? That's a yes. Councillor Singh? Yes. It's a yes. Councillor Fortini?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Power?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Medeiros?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Keenan? Councillor Keenan? I'll come back to you. Councillor Brar?
Yes.
It's a yes. Councillor Vicente? Yes. It's a yes. Councillor Santos?
Yes.
It's a yes. Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Chair Paleshi?
Yes.
It's a yes. Councillor Keenan? I understood he was in the session, but I do not see him present at the moment. So that carries unanimously 10-0.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. To Councillor Keenan, if you can hear us, maybe if you can use the chat function. Our next section of tonight's agenda is the statutory public meeting items. This is a public meeting of the Planning and Development Committee held in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. The proposals to be heard at this public meeting are the results of applications made under the Planning Act. These are not proposals by the City of Brampton, unless they are specifically identified as city-initiated proposals. Tonight, we have no city-initiated proposals. The intent of this public meeting is to receive submissions from the public. Given we may have persons watching this meeting through the city's live stream, we will have staff present each proposal subject to a statutory public meeting unless committee decides otherwise. After receiving any registered delegations, members of the committee may ask questions of clarification and questions of clarification only. Members of committee will not get into any debate and will not provide any comments on any of the statutory public applications. The city has also posted its website www.brampton.ca, supporting information and documentation for these development applications for public review. We will now proceed to consider the two items on this evening's statutory public meeting agenda. After consideration of these public meetings, committee will then deal with the balance of the agenda. Our first statutory item is 5.1, application to amend the zoning bylaw to permit 36,159 square meter industrial warehousing development. The applicant and owner, Highway 50 and 7 South Equities, Inc., Pan Green Limited Partnership. Grey Can 9 Properties Limited Partnership, Grey Can 9 Properties, Inc., Weston Consulting. The location of this is 8386 and 8412 Highway 50, Ward 8. This evening, we have a staff presentation from Emma DeMello, Development Planner from the City of Brampton. Emma, over to you.
Good evening, Chairman Paleshi, members of council, city staff, and members of the public. My name is Emma DeMello, and I'm the planner assigned to process and review the subject application. The purpose of this statutory public meeting is to provide information to the public and to seek feedback on the application filed by Michael Vanny from Weston Consulting on behalf of the owners. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, can you go back one slide? The subject property is located in Ward 8 on lands located on the west side of Highway 50 and east of the Gore Road. The property is municipally known as 8386 and 8412 Highway 50. Next slide, please. This is an air photo of the site as related to Regional Roads Highway 50 and the Gore Road. The property is the former site of the Humber Nurseries Garden Center. There's a warehouse development abutting the subject property to the north at the northeast corner of Highway 50 and Queen Street East. The property is bordered by Glenview Memorial Gardens in the city of Vaughan to the east and Clairville Conservation Area to the south. And there is an estate residential community to the west on Manswood Crescent and residential uses further northwest on Kelway Circle and Seacliff Crescent. There's also a hydro transmission corridor located along the southern portion of the site at the corner of Highway 50 and the Gore Road. Next slide, please. The photo on the top is a view of the site looking northeast from the Gore Road. You can see the hydro transmission corridor running through the southern portion of the site in that photo. The photo on the bottom is a view of the site looking west from Highway 50. Next slide, please. The photo at the top of the screen is a view of the subject property looking west from Highway 50, and you can see the industrial warehouse development on the property abutting the site to the north as well. And the photo at the bottom is a view of the site looking east from the Gore Road, with the abutting industrial building to the north in sight as well. Next slide, please. The proposal contemplates a 36,159 square meter industrial warehouse building. A variable landscape buffer is proposed along Highway 50, ranging from 3 to 6.9 meters, and a 3-meter landscape buffer is proposed along the Gore Road, which is slightly reduced to 2.98 meters for a small portion of the lot underneath the hydro corridor. There are loading docks and trailer parking stalls proposed for the rear of the building. There are 4 driveways proposed to access the site, with 2 access points from Highway 50 and 2 along the Gore Road. There is a truck and trailer access to the site located on the Gore Road across from Manswood Crescent, and we have received comments from the public with respect to this access, and we'll work with the applicant to ensure that we are accommodating residents' concerns with respect to the truck traffic on the Gore Road. Next slide, please. The lands are designated Business Corridor and Parkway Belt West in the official plan. An amendment to the official plan is not required for the proposal. Next slide, please. The site is within the boundaries of the Bram East Secondary Plan. The secondary plan designates the majority of the property mixed commercial industrial, and the northernmost parcel is designated Special Policy Area 12, Office Node, and Mixed Commercial Industrial. An amendment to the secondary plan is not required to permit the proposal. Next slide, please. The northern parcel is zoned Industrial 4, Section 1580, which permits manufacturing and warehouse uses, and the remaining 2 parcels are zoned commercial agriculture. An amendment to the zoning bylaw is required to permit the proposed development. Next slide, please. The applicant proposes to amend the zoning bylaw from the current Industrial 4, Section 1580, and Commercial Agriculture Zone to an Industrial 4 zone with a special section. Site-specific exceptions proposed for the zone include a 2.9-meter landscape buffer, whereas the M4 zone typically requires a 3-meter wide landscaping strip along lot lines abutting a street. And outside storage is proposed in the zoning to permit the trailer parking at the rear of the site. Next slide, please. The subject application will be reviewed for consistency with various planning tools, including the Planning Act, the Provincial Policy Statement, the Growth Plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the Region of Peel and City of Brampton official plans, and the Brampton Secondary Plan. Next slide, please. Issues and opportunities identified to date include the establishment of appropriate buffers along Highway 50 and the Gore Road to screen the trailer docks from public view, coordination with Hydro One to ensure the technical requirements for the long-term protection of the hydro corridor are fulfilled, verification and improvement of the sustainability score to ensure the proposed development meets the minimum required criteria for sustainable development in the city, and additionally truck and trailer access to the site and movement of trucks and trailers specifically along the Gore Road. Next slide, please. This application was deemed to be complete as of September 13th, 2022, and it was then circulated to commenting departments and agencies on September 14th. And public notice of this meeting was posted in The Guardian on November 3rd, 2022. The next steps in this application are that staff will continue to review the application, including reviewing comments from the public and technical comments. Issues raised will be addressed in the future recommendation report, and staff will advance a final recommendation report to council for a decision. And staff will contact and follow up with those residents who have spoken, written in, or advised of an interest in monitoring this proposal. Next slide, please. A report associated with tonight's meeting is available online, and the presentation will be available online shortly. The final recommendation report will be posted on the city's website in advance of the future meeting. My name is Emma DeMello, and my contact information is posted here, along with the contact information for the applicant, Mr. Michael Vanny from Weston Consulting. Mr. Vanny is also present this evening should committee members have any questions regarding the proposal. Next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Members of committee, members of the public, we have now 6 registered delegations. I'll go to our first delegation is Michael Vanny, Planner, Weston Consulting.
Michael, you are in the session now. You can unmute your mic and we'll just bring your presentation up. And you have up to 5 minutes once you start.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can hear you and see you. We're just
Perfect.
bringing your presentation up in a moment.
No problem.
5.1.
Perfect. Good evening, everybody, members of council, those in the gallery and those watching from home. My name is Michael Vanny, and I'm an associate with Weston Consulting. We're the planners on this application, and I'm here to speak to you about this application this evening on behalf of our clients, Penn Limited. So, the next slide, please. So Emma's done a great job at providing some of the context and policy information about this property, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about the development itself, as well as keep this super brief given how extensive her presentation was. So to start off, the site is actually composed of 3 separate parcels currently, which would be ultimately consolidated as part of one property development. The site, as was mentioned, was formerly the Humber Nurseries Garden Center for many, many years, which ceased operations back in 2020. All existing structures on the property, the former greenhouses, and a lot of the different pits for the different facilities have all been removed this past summer. And the site is located just south of 2 existing warehouse buildings that are currently under construction, and those are also owned by the same owner. Also, as Emma noted, there is a hydro corridor controlled by Hydro One that does traverse the southern portion of the property. Next slide, please. So Emma did a great job at going through the policy ramifications, so I'm going to be super brief on this aspect, but the application does fall within a broad hierarchy of applicable policies from the provincial level all the way down to the municipal level. As she had stated, there is no official plan amendment requirement for this application. The use as an industrial warehousing building is permitted in the official plan and secondary plan policies, and it is the land use planning vision for this property to operate in that manner. It is regarded under the growth plan as a provincially significant employment zone, while at the regional OP and city OP level, it is regarded as a business corridor. The Parkway Belt West plan does apply to the southern portion that currently includes the hydro corridor. The zoning, as mentioned, is split between the industrial 4, which is the northern portion in blue, and then the southern 2 parcels in red are the commercial agricultural zone, synonymous with the previous use of the property as Humber Nurseries. Next slide, please. So on the screen before you is I guess a bird's eye view of the site plan. We did add a little bit of color just to make it clearer for everyone to see how the site is set up. As stated, it is a 36,100 square meter industrial warehouse operation that is proposed. That's about 380,000 square feet, and it's inclusive of office space located potentially at the southern and northern corners of the property fronting onto Highway 50, based on recommendations from urban design staff. Buildings generally rectangular in shape, includes 330 parking spaces spread out throughout the property, mostly underneath the existing Hydro One corridor. And there are trailer parking located towards the rear of the building, as well as various loading doors to operate the facility. As you can see by the extensive green space, there's also a significant amount of widenings that's also being proposed around the property to fulfill the ultimate right-of-way requirements for Highway 50 and the Gore Road based on regional policies. Next slide, please.
Michael, just a reminder, you have 1 minute left.
Sure, I'll go pretty quick. So this is a rendering of the building, just to give you a little bit of an aesthetic of what the building's going to look like. Next slide, please. And just in the interest of time, next slide as well. So this slide speaks to the various site accesses and noise. So we have reviewed the comments that we received from various members of the public. We've also spoken with Councillor Fortini prior to this evening's meeting, where he did also inform us a lot of the residents' concerns that he's also heard. So I did want to just make sure that I could spend a minute on this, just to provide a little bit of feedback as to some of the thinking behind this development. So the red circles on the screen do show the various site accesses to the site, while the blue line does show the acoustic barrier that is proposed. In particular, I wanted to go through some of the ideas as to how the accesses came about. Originally, there was only one access proposed along the Gore Road. We were encouraged through discussions with regional staff, through an extensive discussion process prior to submitting an application, to include more accesses. And also the access was moved to adjacent to Manswood Crescent based on their recommendation. This is typically what works best in terms of traffic movements. It's more safe to provide traffic at designated intersections like this, by slowing traffic and also by increasing safety. It's a general practice amongst the region and just generally among transportation experts to locate accesses in these locations. So that's why it was moved to that point. As well as That's similar to what was done on Highway 50, where the northeast access is located adjacent to Huntington Road, whereas the southern access is located adjacent to the cemetery on the Bond side.
Okay, Michael, I'll give you 10 seconds to wrap up.
Perfect. So just wanted to say in closing, we're very aware of staff's, of residents' concerns, and we're more than happy to further the discussion on that and to hear their feedback this evening. Just noting that there's an extensive review process that still has to go, that's still ongoing, and that these discussions will eventually play themselves out with the region appeal as well.
Thank you, Michael. Our next delegations are Brampton residents, and I'd like to ask Mario Asta, who is present, to come on down.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
Mario. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, committee members, Mayor Brown, and our planners here today. On behalf of many of the families living on Manswood Crescent, Seacliff Crescent, and Kelsway Circle, we thank you for the opportunity to speaking here and in regarding to the zoning bylaw amendment. As residents, we are opposing zoning change from M4 1580 commercial agriculture to this general M4 zoning. When families are looking for a place to call home, we look for a community that will offer the best setting for our families to grow, safe streets and environments being two major factors. We wouldn't have chosen a home on Manswood Crescent if we knew that one day the existing zoning would be changed, allowing M4 zoning abilities. Acknowledging the generalization of M4, I'm sure you can understand this testament. Having M4 neighbors less than 90 meters from my home is far from what I envision the development of my community. To be specific, and this is just to name a few proposed amendments, would reduce the buffer zone in some cases by 80%, allow outside storage abutting the Gore Road, and would permit other future changes that will unfavorably impact on adjacent conservation areas and residents. The negative impact the proposed change will have on the safety of our roads, the quality of our air, and the well-being of our community members is beyond measure. In addition to opposing the bylaw amendment, we are also opposing the proposed 2 driveways on the Gore Road. The proposed 2 driveways on the Gore Road would be used for automobile and tractor-trailer access to this property. This would drastically increase traffic, not only regular automobile traffic, but heavy tractor-trailers carrying industrial goods on the Gore Road. The Transportation Queuing Analysis Study Report included in this proposal is warning us of temporary vehicle queuing and actual blockage of the residential intersections at Kelsway Circle and Manswood Crescent during peak hours. I would also like to mention that according to the driveway configuration noted in our information package, the mentioned newly constructed adjacent building, 4629 Queen Street, and the now proposed building, Highway 50 building, have driveways that have access to one another. The transportation study I had mentioned before does not reflect added vehicle and tractor-trailer activity that will come when adding this newly constructed Queen Street building. Currently, this community has family members from 118 homes that could only use the Gore Road to get to and from their residence. The average home being 3 and 4 bedrooms, traffic challenges already exist along the Gore Road south of the Queen Street. If this development would proceed as proposed, who can we hold responsible for emergency vehicles, first responders, public transportation, school buses that are delayed and possibly not able to get to our homes because of the tractor trailers and other vehicles blocking our residential streets? We must better separate industrial traffic with residential traffic in our community. And that would be why that's why we would not allow heavy tractor-trailer traffic onto the Gore Road south of the Queen Street. Even with noise mitigation measures, the possible 24/7 use of these properties threatens the peace and tranquility of the neighboring residential communities, as well as the nearby conservation area. Beyond the mitigation wall, The momentary thuds of tractor trailers loading, constant humming from increased traffic, reverse beeping, and other sounds associated with industrial areas would cause great disturbance. Headaches, stress, anxiety, agitation, all are health effects commonly associated with noise pollution. As you would agree, our homes are our sanctuary, a place to relax, unwind, and spend precious time with our families. It's disturbing to think that our homes will become a place associated with these avoidable negative health impacts. Reducing the quality of our surrounding landscapes worries us all. The possibility of outside storage exceeding the height of the screening and the insufficient buffer zone could mean that the first thing we see when we step outside in the mornings is this visually disturbing industrial backdrop. We must consider environmental impacts we make. We are not against development. We understand employment is a driving force benefiting our community members, but we want to ensure this project does not have a negative effect on our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mario. Our next delegation is Franca Cotillo, Brampton resident.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Franca Cotillo, and I have resided west of the Gore Road in Brampton for over 3 decades. During this time, I have observed significant changes on the Gore Road. Humber Nurseries occupied the land in question since the 60s, and next to it was farmland. Goats and sheep grazed freely on the empty green space. The Gore Road had beautiful trees lining both sides of the street, like an image from a child's storybook. And when we drove home in the evening, it was like we were getting close to nature. Suffice to say, times have changed. The road was redeveloped to become 4 lanes. The trees were uprooted and hauled away, and promises from city planners for replanting initiatives came up empty. Over the years, we saw notices of potential development on the east side of the Gore Road. At one time, we were told it would be a banquet facility. Then it switched to a big box store. And lastly came the industrial warehouses, just like the ones occupying the better part of Highway 50 today. Warehouses have brought a barrage of tractor trailers, moving contents from one site to another. This runway of warehouses has become the gateway to Brampton. We were promised gardens and mirror buildings at Queen and Highway 50. Instead, we got warehouses and tractor trailers. But who are we, you ask? We are the forgotten residents of the streets nestled to the west of Gore, south of Queen. An enclave of stately homes situated amongst the green space of Clairville Conservation, a sanctuary for flora, fauna, and ecologically diverse lands. This is a magical space where my husband and I raised our family. Over the years, we witnessed a myriad of visions of nature, flocking birds and monarch butterflies getting ready for migration in the fall, fireflies lighting the summer night skies, and sightings of the white-tailed deer, coy wolf, and red fox. Which brings us to the reason for tonight's meeting. The proposed bylaw amendment will bring further changes to the Gore Road. The commercial agricultural piece of land owned by Humber Nurseries will be changed to M4 with site-specific exceptions, including trailer parking and outdoor storage. The landscape buffer will be reduced from 15 meters to 3 meters. Furthermore, the M4 category permits industrial manufacturing. To my knowledge, there has been no discussion around what will be manufactured and the associated airborne emissions, at least none to the local residents who have been involved to now, but perhaps of greater immediate concern is the fact that the proposal includes new heavy truck access along the Gore Road, despite the fact that there are not one, but two access points from Highway 50 and Queen Street. I would like to emphasize the fact that the sole access to our homes is through the Gore Road. There is literally no other way for us to get home. Now I speak to our elected politicians, particularly our councillors, and especially Pat Fortini, Rod Power, and Mayor Patrick Brown. As civic leaders in our municipal government, you owe it to your constituents to exercise due diligence in your decision-making. Put yourselves in the shoes of the residents going to and from work and having to face the queuing tractor trailers on the Gore Road. In addition, there will be noise pollution around the clock with hundreds of docks in place and the beeping of tractor trailers backing up. Not to mention how precarious the Gore Road will become from a safety standpoint once huge tractors occupy it. But it's not just our families who will suffer from this development. The neighboring wildlife residing on the protected lands of Clairville will undoubtedly be impacted because, after all, we do live in a connected world. Many a time we have seen curious creatures creep out of the green space of the valleys onto the street, and the repercussions are devastating. I was perplexed to learn that the TRCA was not involved with the environmental impact study, and a private firm was hired to study on behalf of the developer, happened to turn a blind eye to the neighboring conservation area. In conclusion, I challenge our developers to come up with more meaningful way of utilizing this land of Brampton for the Brampton residents. In the short term, however, I am astounded at the lack of foresight associated with the proposal to add an unnecessary heavy truck access onto the Gore Road. The impact to surrounding communities will be devastating, and we want to be clear that we, as residents, strongly object to both the proposal and the lack of consideration with which it progressed. An industrial warehouse has no place next to a residential community, especially a community situated next to conservation land. Thank you.
Thank you, Franca. That was a wonderful delegation, by the way. I was wondering if I ever have to do speeches, could you come and do my speeches for me? For small charge.
Thank you, Franca. Our next delegation is Raj Sharma. Raj? You have 5 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you for all of you to give me time to say a few words regarding this change of or trying to make amendment in M4. My name is again Raj Sharma, and I'm a resident of 57 Kelvin Circle. Most of the things my resident friends, Mario and Franca, I think they mention almost everything, so I don't want to take too much of everybody's time, just repeating the same. But yes, I have, like, people got to understand that I bought this place around, we built it actually, got it built right from the day one. And we thought it's a convenient place, and it could be good in the sense of, because there's no commercial and especially the industrial zoning in the neighborhood. It was a nursery, as everybody knows now. It was in the corner. So I have one question, first of all, that people got to understand that we have access to our area, either Manswood or Kelvin Circle or Seacliff, only through Gore Road. But the proposed change is they're asking for 2 entrances already from the Highway 50, and they're asking for the 2 more for industrial from the Gore side. So they're asking for 4, and we have only 1 access, and that's from the Gore Road. So the question comes, as the previous residents spoke their mind, that in case of emergency, there could be a problem. And just so you know, in 80 years, the changes in the traffic zone, because a lot of residential development on the north side of the Highway 7. So most of the people from Toronto taking Highway 50, then Gore Road, shortcut straight to north side of the Highway 7. So now doing this and increase in the traffic is so much now in the next, from the last 80 years. It's like a day and night. So there's a queue up in the morning and queue up in the evening. If it's any person taking turn or anything, the whole traffic is jammed. So having the tractor trailer, letting them enter and come out from that side is gonna be disaster for the not only our people, like in that corner, we are trapped in the corner, exit from the Gore. Even the traffic they're going through. So if they already have the Highway 50 access, and which is wider, like I believe it's a 4 or 6 lane, on the Highway 50. And why do they want to go through this side or exit from this side? It does not make sense. And again, as the previously resident mentioned, that is going to cause, not only it's going to impact our health in a sense of pollution, disturbance, and in emergency access. And just one thing I want to mention, that just so you guys know, in this area, especially in the Kelways area and the Seacliff area, there's no park in our neighborhood. So the small kids, I've seen people taking them, for the bikes to go around, and they're the little kids. And I see them going on the street, and they normally, I notice most of the time I watch it, they come from Kelways, and they try to go towards the Men's Ward and try to take a round turn there because they have nowhere to go. They have no place to go. And we had a meeting with our counselor in the past, and we were assured that they're working on look into it. But the question comes, the safety of those kids is going to be the biggest concern. Why? Because number one, they have no park. They have no way to go. One side is Highway 50, one side is Highway 7. They can't go on that one. So they only go to the men's, and now where they are, little bit they have the room to go around and come back, and now we're putting 2 access to the trailer tractors. So we oppose it. We strongly request everybody who's ever looking into this change of this zone not to agree with it, and otherwise you will, all the residents of this community, they will get affected, and it could be a serious effect in a sense of not only like a health of the resident, noise, pollution, animals on the back, every wildlife gonna get affected. So it's not, if they do not have the choice from Highway 50, I would say, okay, that's because they have no choice. So when they did this zoning, my question was at that time, they should have proposed at that time that we're gonna have 2 entrances from this side. Why that was not discussed to begin with? It seems like let's do step 1, and we'll do step 2, and let's see how far it goes. So I request, along with not a few residents that came here, but just 4 or 5 of us that's attending today, they're representative of every single person in the community. Like last night, we had a brief discussion, almost everybody, because some they cannot attend it. So we request not to make this change.
Thank you.
We will thank you.
Rush. Next delegation is Pankaj Chopra. Welcome, you have up to 5 minutes.
Honorable council members, Honorable Mayor Patrick Brown, and respected city staff, the developers and the planners and my friends here. I moved to Manswood in 2014. Seeing the area, I wanted to raise my kids there because there was conservation back there, there was wildlife, fresh air, it was a town, a small town within a city where we were so isolated and with the nature. And I want to raise my grandchildren here also. But I don't think so that's going to happen. Because development is very good. I have done few developments myself. But it shouldn't be at the cost of people, wildlife, nature, and creating chaos in the neighborhood. This is going to create chaos. I have 3 school-going children. In the morning when I go to drop them, it takes me 45 minutes. The first gridlock is a right turn on the Highway 50 from Gore, because we don't have any exit. We can't take Queen because it is already gridlocked. The second major gridlock, which city I don't understand why it fails to address, is Steeles and Highway 50. Because when there are trucks, it takes only 2.5 trucks before the light turns. And if you're coming back from Steeles, making a left on Highway 50, it takes 2 trucks to cross before the light goes. And then the new Gore Road exit, it takes 3 trucks, if there are 3 trucks. Otherwise, it takes 2 lights for anybody to cross. 1 light during normal, you're lucky if you can. There are 2 left turn lanes. And if there is a truck, forget about it. And now we want to have, as my fellow friends said earlier, the only road we have for our existence. I would like to invite the developer, the honorable planner, the city staff, and any of the council members to come there in the morning, make a left or right turn with the current traffic situation also. And now we're going to add trucks. You know how many docks they are giving there? 68, with 38 additional parking spots. That is a total of 106. Those are the trucks which are inside. And imagine when on full capacity, the trucks which are getting ready to come in or ready to go out. They are talking about, the respective planner, he showed the green plan. It is just 3 meters of, buffer space they are giving. Right? I didn't come prepared, with the document. I'm speaking from my heart because I like that community, I love that community. My backyard used to be full of deers, wildlife, coyotes, birds. I don't see any deers anymore since Humber Nursery is closed. If you look at the plan, I would like to ask the city staff also, where Gore Road meets, where they propose the new entrance for that. That is a flood zone, green flood zone, that goes into that Humber area. Why and how that was ignored? Why that thing could not be extended? I have developed a plaza here. I know what it takes for a developer, but at the same time, you cannot claim from the community conservation of the flora and fauna there and the wildlife. As my friend said, Gore Road is already a hazard. Anybody who is supporting this, please come there during rush hour in the morning. Try it. Kelsway has a light, Manswood doesn't. Even with the Kelsways with the light, there are so many instances where you can't make a turn. And with all the trucks coming to Gore Road, this is going to be a nightmare for all of us. If you're forcing us to sell our homes and go out, let us know. City is there to protect the residents. Development is good, but not at the stake of their residents, their wildlife, conservation, and we are directly hitting that. My children, they have to go to school. I have to leave an hour early. When I go and pick them up, 1 hour is gone. We have to make illegal U-turns on Steeles and Highway 50 to come on Highway 50. The city staff would know this. If somebody doesn't, come there between 3 and from 2 onwards, you will see what happens there. And you are creating that worst gridlock there at Manswood. And then all these trucks are there. As a developer, why do they have to go in for such big footprint? Why can't they be more, environmentally friendly footprint? Why they have to get buffer zone reduced from 15 meters to 3 meters? Have you seen that? Half of the thing is for, they have a 3-meter strip of grass there. Rest all is for their snow storage. That is what is showing as green there. Right? And 68 dogs with 38 trailer parking who are waiting there, all those engines running all the time, and you have Clearwell next there, next to that, across the road. I'm going to talk to, TRCA also. I'm going to, file that freedom to write information that why that, because according to me, TRCA is which protects everybody. They protect us by protecting the greenery here, the trees. How come this was allowed? How come you can easily, even now you can pull up the drawing, that green zone, flood zone goes into that land. Why it was overlooked? And you are creating a gridlock. Anybody, again, it's a humble request, please come, experience the area, then make your decision. I'll request the developers also, they'll get many chances to do many projects. Sometimes we have to do something for the community and the wildlife. We've been taught trees are precious. That's why I have on my property trees which are more than 40 years old, 50 years old. They are around 100 feet high. I live there. Just yesterday, somebody was there. I was telling them, breathe this air, see how fresh it is. But we are going to lose all of that. Our children, I don't think so I'll be able to raise my grandchildren there. I think so we'll be forced to move out of this area. If city is supporting this, it is very unfortunate that I'll be living in this city. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the delegation. From the heart is probably the best place for the delegation. I appreciate it. Jeff Sheffrin is our next delegate. Jeff? Welcome, Jeff. You have up to 5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, my neighbours have said all of the things that needed to be said. I've got a couple of different approaches I'd like to take. I reviewed the Planning Act, and the Planning Act talks about orderly development of safe and healthy communities. I'm wondering whether that phrase becomes an oxymoron in this context. I also looked at the sustainability snapshot that Emma and the group provided to us. Some interesting accolades being put against some of those things which, personally living there, I would challenge. I'm also curious as to why 3 of my neighbours get a notification from the city, and I too butt right onto the Gore Road at my house. I don't get a notification. So I'm a little bit surprised at that. But let me get on to another point. I think I've heard from the developer that they're considering removing the entrances onto the Gore Road. I think I've heard that. If I have, this is my request. From the developer, I'd like to see on letterhead, from somebody with signing authority, telling me that that is the case. There will be no exits and entrances off the Gore Road. And I'd like the phrase in perpetuity in that letter. And I'd like to see that letter on file with the council and to all of us as the neighbourhood that resides there. So a letter which gives a clear undertaking. That's what I'd like to see. The next thing I'd like to ask is, if I go north of 7, I don't have the correct expressions, you planning folks will have to forgive me, but it seems to be an urban thoroughfare, which implies that it doesn't allow trucks. Yet south of 7, us, that little piece of the Gore Road, between Queen and 50, we don't have that privilege. So apparently, we're thrown to the wolves, we're just a commercial access route. That, I believe, should be changed. North of 7, there are a number of commercial facilities on the Gore Road. South of 7, where we are, we're the only people there. It's only houses. There's nothing commercial there unless these entrances go in. So I plead that I have is, don't put the entrances there, and kindly give that to me in writing. The other thing I would speculate is that when I look at the integration between the proposed new warehouse, that 36,000 square meters, and the two existing ones, and they're connected, I've got probably approaching 200 docks there. That says to me this is a cross-docking operation. So to pick up on my neighbor's comments about volumes of traffic, if this is a cross-docking operation and has getting over 200 doors there, I'm going to have, and I work in logistics, I'm going to have a truck movement in and out of that facility approximately once every minute or minute and 30 seconds. To get on to Pankhouse's point about traffic, it's going to be chaos. And safety issues that go with that, I'm not exactly impressed. So, Mr. Developer, I'd really appreciate if you would sharpen your pencil and come up with another solution for this. Otherwise, I think I've said everything that my neighbors have said, and I've just tried to put it into a slightly different context, and I thank the council for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there, now those are our registered delegations. Is there anybody else that's here that would like to delegate on this item? Anybody at all you have to do is come down, register, and you can have up to 5 minutes to delegate. Seeing Mr. Sani, come on down. Mr. Sani, you have to sign the book. Just after you delegate, there's a book behind you, you have to sign it, okay?
Okay. My name is Rajendra Saini, and I am also a resident of Calvary Circle. I think most of the things my friends or my fellow residents have already shared. Honestly, I'm not very much prepared for that, but I have only one question. It was Mr. Chopra who told me a couple of days back that this is what's going on, being proposed by the developer in this area. Honestly, we never received any letter, and there was no proper information to us, being resident, that this is going to happen. I would thank these fellows that at least they brought to our notice, and 3 or 4 days ago, this was all information shared with all the residents in this area. So I wonder if the procedure was followed to inform all the residents that this is going to happen here, and they were given enough time to come and represent here on this issue. So that's my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sani. So I'll just say that under the Planning Act, we have to provide notice. The Planning Act, I believe, says 150 meters, 120 meters from the site. We upped it to 240 meters from the site.
Yeah.
I guess we don't control the post office. You know, we do send out the notices. On top of that, we post it in the Brampton Guardian. And then on top of that, there is a sign located on the site as well. So if anybody ever has...
letter, and I was told that there's a very small sign over there. Honestly, I pass through that area many times a day, never noticed that. But anyway, we would like to get the information
the sign,
whether that procedure was followed or not.
Yeah.
The rest of the things they have already mentioned.
And hearing that some residents did receive it, some residents didn't receive it.
Nobody got it.
I know
It's an
unfortunate. We've heard that before.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you could sign in there, provide your name and your address. Anybody else like to come down and delegate? If you don't wish to delegate, but you still have comments, you can submit your comments to the City of Brampton. And I can assure you that all of your questions here today and your comments will be mentioned in the staff report when it comes back to council. So this is not the last time we'll see this report. Staff will write a report, and I believe TRCA will be commenting on the report. That report will come back to council for council to make a decision. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. I do have Councillor Fortini on the board. Councillor Fortini, any questions of clarification?
Yeah, two questions. First, to stop, I always say, because the best thing is always do a register letter so people receive them. My other thing, Mr. Chair, I'd like to defer this to our next planning meeting. I had discussions with these residents and also Mike Vernier. They're willing to work with the residents. As they said, they're not against the development. It's about those trucks. And I know Jeff brought up a good point. There's no trucks on the top of north of Queen, but there is on the south. And this is only one lane up in north. And I think Michael did say to me, he's willing to work with the residents on these two entrances, maybe just make an entrance for employee cars to come in and out, but to remove them. But we didn't have enough time to get this done. So I'd like to have a meeting with them and the residents and maybe just bring it back in the New Year's and they could come to a conclusion.
Thank you, Councillor Fortini. Was that all?
Yeah, that's all, just to defer it and so we can have a public meeting with them. They're willing to move those entrances and everyone's happy and the development will go through. As the residents say, they're not against the development, they're worried more about the trucks. That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Fortini, you'll take that offline with staff because this is the public meeting portion, right? No direction can be provided here today. So
Yeah, but I can't defer this till next planning meeting and have these guys.
No.
What do you mean, no?
No,
We've done it with
it's their
Paradise
full
and stuff.
right to have a public meeting. That public meeting's here today. My suggestion to you would be just to have a conversation with staff to see if you can get maybe an extra meeting on behalf of the area councillors and the residents to have that discussion. Stephen?
Yeah, through the chair, we'd be happy to arrange a special workshop meeting with the area residents, the ward councillors, before we bring back a recommendation report.
Yeah, that would be good, Liz, because talking to Michael and Chris and Mark from Weston Consulting, they're willing to work with these residents and it's a win-win for everyone. Okay, we'll set it up. So thank you so much.
That's excellent. Thank you, Councillor Fortini. Councillor Fortini, I have a motion moved by Councillor Fortini that the report titled the information report application to amend the zoning bylaw, Highway 50 and 7 South Equities, Pan Green Limited Partnerships, Canada Grey Can Properties Limited Partnerships, Grey Can 9 Properties Inc., Weston Consulting, be received and that the following delegations regarding the information report delegations Michael Vanny, Mario Asta, Franca Cotillo, Raj Sharma, Pankaj Chopra, Jeff Sheffrin, and Mr. Sani be approved. All in favor? That carries. And receiving the correspondence 11.1. All in favor? That carries. Our next item is 5.2, application to amend the zoning bylaw and for a draft plan of subdivision to permit a development of 18 townhouse dwelling units, a buffer block, and an extension of Royal Vista Road. The applicant owner, Gagnon Walker Domes, Mr. Haroon Raza, location 1206 Steeles Avenue West, Ward 4. This evening we have a staff presentation from Marco Gerolini, Development Planner. Welcome, Marco. Please begin.
Good evening, members of committee, members of the public, and city staff. My name is Marco Gerolini, and I'm the planner assigned to process and review the subject application. The purpose of this public meeting is to provide information to the public and seek feedback on the application filed by Gagnon Walker Domes. Next slide, please. The subject property is located in Ward 4, municipally known as 1206 Steeles Avenue West. The nearest major intersection is Chinguacousy Road and Steeles Avenue, and the property is located on the north side of Steeles, just west of James Potter Road. Next slide, please. The slide shows an overview of the site. Their surrounding land uses are described as follows. To the north, residential semi-detached housing. To the east, vacant land that is planned for future development. To the south, Steeles Avenue West, beyond which is a mix of residential housing. And to the west, residential townhouses. The subject property is currently occupied by a single detached dwelling and an accessory structure. Next slide, please. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision application are to facilitate the redevelopment of lands for 18 townhouse units. The proposed lot frontages are 5.43 meters for Block 1 and 6 meters for Block 2, with an additional 3.3 meter wide landscape buffer block adjacent to Steeles Avenue West. Next slide, please. The lands are designated residential in the City of Brampton official plan, which allows for a broad range of residential uses, including townhomes. The proposal for the development falls within the residential designation. An amendment to the official plan is therefore not required. Next slide, please. The lands are within the Bram West secondary plan area and designated as low medium density. An amendment to the secondary plan is not required to permit the proposed development. Next slide, please. A majority of the lands are zoned agricultural, which permits structures or buildings for the purposes of agricultural uses. The remainder of the lands are zoned for townhomes. An amendment to the zoning bylaw is required to permit the proposed plan. Next slide, please. The applicant is proposing to amend the property to the following zones: residential street townhouse B for block 1, with the minimum lot width being 5.43 meters per interior dwelling unit and 8.43 meters per corner dwelling unit. Residential street townhouse B for block 2, with the minimum lot width being 6 meters for interior dwelling unit and 9 meters per corner dwelling unit. The open space zone is proposed for a landscape buffer block located along Steeles Avenue West. Next slide, please. The subject application will be reviewed for consistency with various planning tools, including the Planning Act, Provincial Policy Statement, Growth Plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the Region Appeal Official Plan, the City of Brampton Official Plan, and the Bram West Secondary Plan. Next slide, please. Issues and opportunities identified today include the following: improvement and verification of the sustainability score to ensure the development meets the minimum bronze level, how to best integrate the proposed development within the existing neighborhood, and to complete the connection and extension of Royal Vista Road. These issues and others that are raised will be addressed in a future recommendation report. Next slide, please. This application was filed with the city and deemed to be complete on August 22nd. It was then circulated to commenting departments and agencies. The public notice of this meeting was provided on November 3rd. The next steps in this application are: staff will continue the review of the application, including reviewing comments from public and technical comments. Issues raised will be addressed in the recommendation report and advance a final recommendation report to council. Staff will contact and follow up with those residents who have spoken, written in, or advised of an interest in monitoring this proposal. Next slide, please. This report associated with tonight's meeting is available online, and the presentation will be available online shortly. The final recommendation report will be posted on the city's website in advance of the future meeting. Once again, my name is Marco Girolini, and my contact information is posted on the screen, along with the contact information for the applicant, Mark Denardis of GWD, representing the owners of 1206 Steeles Avenue West. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact myself, my manager, or the applicant. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you very much, Marco. Next, we have the delegations from Gagnon Walker Domes. We have two people as one delegation, Mark Denardis and Michelle Harris as the applicants, planning associates. Mark?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, city staff, members of the public. My name is Mark Denardis. I'm a planning associate from GWD Planners. We are agent for the registered owner, numbered company 2872374 Ontario Inc. We act as planning consultant. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to make my presentation very brief. So the property is a site area of just under half a hectare. It's got about 61 meters of frontage on Steeles Avenue West. Existing uses comprised of a single detached dwelling and an accessory structure. There's no significant vegetation on the property. There's a small number of trees centered along the existing driveway and the property limits. The existing reserve blocks are used as a temporary road associated with the subdivision to the west. And the property is part of the larger Altone Grey Cap community, which was comprehensively planned and developed in the mid-2000s. And with the exception of the property immediately to the east, it is the only outstanding holdout property. The balance of the community has been sufficiently built out. Next slide, please. Again, this is the proposed draft plan of subdivision, 18 street townhouse lots, 1 buffer block, an extension of Royal Vista Road, and has a density of just under 60 units per net hectare. Next slide, please. And this is the proposed master landscape plan. So while trees are proposed to be removed, we intend to plant new trees along the municipal boulevard. Next slide, please. And these are just some development vision and precedent images of what the units could look like. It's important to be mindful that the existing units that are in along the major existing streets were built probably about 15 years ago. So while the units are intended to be compatible with the host community, they don't need necessarily to be identical to the existing building stock. The final unit design and the selection of building materials and colors will go through the city's architectural control process. Next slide, please. And while this is a very straightforward application, a comprehensive list of studies, plans, and reports have been filed with the City Planning Department, which are currently under review. And happy to answer any questions that committee members may have. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have?
Yep, thank you.
We have anybody in attendance that would like to delegate on this item? Do we have any correspondence from anybody online that would like to delegate on this item? Seeing none, any members of council like to ask questions of clarification? Seeing none, I have a motion moved by Councilor Medeiros to approve the staff report recommendations, receive the correspondence, the report titled Information Report Application to Amend the Zoning Bylaw for Draft Plan of Subdivision, Gagnon Walker Domes, Harun Raza, 1206 Steeles Avenue West, Ward 4. The following delegations for the information report application to amend the zoning bylaw: Mark Denardis, Planning Associates, Gagnon Walker Domes; Michelle Harris, Planning Associates, Gagnon Walker Domes, be moved. All in favor? That carries. That is it for the statutory public meetings. Our first staff presentation, planning report, held by Councillor Fortini, was it? 7-2?
Through you, Mr. Chair, 7-2 is held for the delegation. This is delegation 6.2 from Raymond Zambia, Senior Planner, SGL Planning and Design, in regards to staff report item 7.2.
Okay.
Peter, Mr. Chair, just if I might, the one delegation is the applicant, so I believe their intention is just to answer any questions if there are any.
So through you, Mr. Chair, we can ask if they wish to. Raymond, do you wish to delegate, or are you just present to answer any questions?
Good evening. Yes, I'm present to answer any questions.
Any members have any questions of Raymond? Seeing none, I have a staff report motion moved by Councillor Fortini, application to amend the zoning bylaw for a temporary period of 3 years. SGL Planning and Design, Odessa Auctions Canada Corporation, 0 Queen Street East, Ward 8. All in favor? That carries. Next item, 7.3. This is a staff report to help assist the proponents, Electra Convergent Development Limited Partnership and Capital Power, seeking funding for improvements to the electrical system at 1100 Steeles Avenue West, Ward 4, and 8600 Goreway Drive, Ward 8, to facilitate a request for municipal council support resolution. So therefore, they're looking for us to support this this request, and then they're going off to, I think, the federal government to get a...
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Chair, it's the IESO, which is the acronym for Independent Electrical Service Organization, looking to receive a grant from that organization.
Okay, are there any questions, members of council, to staff on this report? Seeing none, we have a motion.
So through you, Mr. Chair, we have a motion. I believe that staff assisted a member of council to introduce, and it was the staff recommendations with an amendment to staff recommendation 2 to amend the wording in the resolution of support, which is shown in the screen. And the additional words are shown in red.
Would anyone like it taken, would anyone like time to read it? Or have it read out? It's been taken as read, moved by Mayor Brown, that the staff report in motion to help assist the proponents, Electric Convergent Development Limited Partnerships and Capital Power, seeking funding for improvements to electrical system at 1100 Steeles Avenue West, Ward 4, and 8600 Goreway Drive, Ward 8, be approved. All in favor? That carries. Our next item is other business, 9.1. is Bill 23 that I have added. We all understand that Bill 23 has now gone through third reading. Will receive royal assent tomorrow, is basically what I'm being told by the province. And, but I was also told that we will still have opportunity to provide comments specifically on the financial aspects of Bill 23 as they get rolled out. I'm not entirely sure what that means. I think it means we'll still have opportunity to comment, but there is two discussions that were happening in the last little while. One particular to Board 6, Northwest Brampton, and that thorn in my side, now the thorn in both of our sides of a quarry application that has wanted to build a pit in Northwest Brampton for so long that we've had a number of residents, we've had this place packed multiple times to oppose the quarry. So we do have a motion that, with respect to Bill 23, that I'd like to put on the floor. Peter, if you may. Planning Development Services staff be directed to submit additional comments to the province and immediately meet with provincial staff on ERO 019-06217 to explore the potential as it relates to the signed minutes of settlement April 2018 between the corporation and Brampton Brick Limited for the purpose of attempting to resolve the long outstanding matter of a Norval quarry. It's been moved by myself. All in favor? That carries. Next, I would like to turn it over to Councillor Santos.
Thank you so much, and through you, Mr. Chair, I thank you for bringing forward this discussion item. And as shared at Committee of Council on Wednesday last week, I think many of us, after that presentation and GR update from staff, were very, very concerned as to what this would mean, and certainly with respect to the timing of how all of this was being pushed through, not just in terms of finances, but also what that means in terms of various projects and inability for us to control the growth at the city and residents to have a say in various pieces of the application process. And so in conversation with staff as well as some of my colleagues, one of the things that we thought about is actually putting forward a task force, an urgent task force to deal with the advocacy efforts as a result of Bill 23. And in working with Chris from GR and planning staff, having review a motion together with finance and also with colleagues, some of your feedback, there is a motion prepared. And the motion has a long preamble based on the presentation given to Committee of Council last week from staff, and some of the concerns expressed by us on council. And the reason why there is a long explanation is because many residents don't even know what this is, and they don't understand the implications in terms of property taxes that a legislation like this from the province would mean. And so it summarizes essentially the presentation that was given to us and some of those key points from last week. And then the therefore be it resolved talks about setting up that task force to include the mayor, the chair of planning, as well as the deputy mayor and vice chair of planning, Councillor Singh, myself as chair of community services and FCM board member, as well as Councillor Vicente, chair of public works and AMO board member, for many different reasons as to why we would like to be on that specific task force, as well as the CAO and any other staff the CAO determines to be appropriate. And the task force would be responsible for helping to put together a plan and also advocate aggressively for the interests of the city of Brampton as it relates to Bill 23. and consider the work already being done by AMO and FCM, of which Councillor Vicente and myself sit on, and Mayor Brown sits on the Ontario Big City Mayors as well. And then also to make sure that we engage in a meaningful dialogue with developers and key stakeholders separate from this bill in order to find ways in terms of a best approach to municipal planning and growth management as it relates to our existing plans. And so that is the motion. And happy if folks want to read through all of the whereases, and happy if Chris, if you're on the line, and or planning, and or Nash, if you're on the line, if you want to speak to some of the whereases that you helped us put together. And that is the motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Santos. Members of committee, you have the motion before you. It's been taken as read. Are there any questions? Seeing none, moved by Councillor Santos. All in favor? That's approved. Our next item, item 12, Councillor question period. Do any members of committee have any questions? Seeing none. Any on the board? None. Public question period. Any members of the public like to come down and ask any questions related to anything on the agenda today? Seeing none. It's been moved by Councillor Tour that this meeting is now adjourned. Our next regular meeting is Monday, December 12th, 2022 at 7 p.m. or at the call of the chair. All in favor? Carried. Have a great night, everybody. See you in a half hour.